Good morning. Welcome to the training program on mastering cyber defense with XCM's XDR 360. And today we are going to cover session 6, which is about compliance and reporting. So then there will be one more session, and then we'll be uh, done with the complete course. So today's focus is more on compliance, and we'll see. You hear about NIST compliance, HIPAA, GDPR, PCI DSS, CMMC, and so on, right? So how you help your clients get compliant for these different standards, which are industry specific, like PCI DSS applies to the uh, companies who do financial transactions, HIPAA to the healthcare industry, and so on, right? But these are all derived from the NIST CSF 2.0 and CIS controls 8.1. So we will have a quick review of those. We had that in the first session, but we'll do it today as well. And then we get deeper into the compliance activities and reporting. And why even we are doing this, like why compliance matters. So we can look at two examples. This one is HIPAA. This applies to anyone in the healthcare business, like it includes hospitals, doctors, dentists, maybe pharmaceutical companies, and so on. Anyone that deals with what we call electronic protected health information, like you hear about PHI, protected health information, and EPHI, electronic, right? So this is all about patient data. When we go to doctor's office or hospital, they get our name, date of birth, they have all the lab test results, X-rays, MRI. There's a lot of data like that can be used to identify a patient. So this regulation is about protecting that information. So this is more about privacy, like privacy of the patients. So this is a very, very important standard for anyone in the healthcare business. But and you see there are three areas. This will generally be the case for every standard. Like there will be administrative part, like you need to have like risk management policies, staff training, those type of like administrative things. And then you need to have physical security, like you need to have like the physical security, maybe surveillance cameras and like maybe cards to enter into the buildings and so on. So wherever this EPHI data is stored, you need to restrict the physical access to that, right? And then the technical. So what our focus is going to be for each of these standards is going to be more on the technical and the administrative, right? Not that much on physical. I know as MSP, sometimes you provide products like security cameras and so on. You manage those. That's also about physical security, like some of that, like some of you MSPs do that. But today's focus is more on technical and administrative. So this is the HIPAA example. Then we look at another perspective, what type of things we are going to cover, like as part of this compliance. So this is another important standard. PCI DSS is basically payment card industry data security standard. So this applies to any business that do a financial transaction. There are different levels. Level 4, if you are doing just less than 20K per month, and level 1 is when you do over 6 million transactions. So there are different levels, but at the base, these are the different things. So we can maybe go through these, what these different things are for PCI DSS compliance. And in all these, why we are doing that, even previous one, like when we were looking at HIPAA, this is really it when like hospitals, doctors, dentists are compliant with HIPAA, it builds trust. Like patients know their private information is protected, like EPHI. That means they become credible, they get more business. And what is your role as MSP? Because you want to help your clients get compliant, like, and then you become their trusted advisors, like, so, okay, you're mastering cyber defense, like you're protecting your clients, but now you get to the next level. You become the trusted advisors because you are helping your clients not only like protect their endpoints and so on, you're helping them improve their credibility, help them build trust for their customers. Like then you become the trusted advisor. Like so that's why this compliance is so important for you as MSPs. Same over here, like TSS, DSS. Eventually, it's about building trust, like compliance. But what type of things we go through these requirements, and we'll come back to CAS later and how everything relates. So we talked about like there's about physical security, admin part, and technical part. And now we can go through these PCI DSS requirements. There are 12 requirements. We can start with the secure network. And the first requirement is you need to have a firewall. You need to have a managed firewall. The second one is you need to have unique passwords, for example. So this is the requirement. Then secure card holder data. So there's your cardholder data. There is two type of data. Like one is when you do a transaction, it is your name and like the credit card number. That has a different requirement. We will go through that later. And then there is a confidential data like your credit card validation code, those CBS codes and pins. They cannot even be stored. Like even the businesses who do transaction, they are not going to store that data. So here we are talking about the first type of data. So even that needs to be secured at rest. It needs to be encrypted. That's this requirement 3. Number 4 is in transit, like through the network. When the transaction happens, it like you pull some server and so on, that needs to be protected. And then vulnerability management, access control, like least privilege access. Like in all these things you hear about, you need to control the access to the data with only as a need basis. And number 2 was about unique passwords, and number 8 is about unique user identities. You cannot have like share a username between two persons, but then you don't know who accessed the data. Like you cannot track it. So these requirements are making sure you can track like who accessed this data, because that's what this compliance is all about. Uh, and so on. You can continue network monitoring and so on. And this part is more about the admin part, like you need to have information security policy and so on. And this access control number 9 is about physical access. Like you see, like you looked at HIPAA, and now we kind of are breaking down PCI DSS is the same theme. You need to secure your network, you need to secure your endpoints and restrict physical access and have a information security policies and those things. So yeah, so this is background. Like again, I want to emphasize. I mean, this is really about building trust, and you MSPs becoming trusted advisors for your clients. Let's look at this. Can apply to anything. You can now imagine a retail business which will require PCI DSS compliance, or a healthcare business, a hospital. They may have multiple locations and so on. This again, our trusty overall architecture fits well, because now if there's a hospital with remote clinics, remote users, how they can get access. Maybe there's some PHI data stored in a data center or somewhere. You need to secure like all this access. But today it's more about collecting logs and events from each place so that we can uh, categorize it against the compliance requirements and use that as the evidence that we are implementing the controls that are required for that standard, right? Yeah, so we already have a way to collect information from all these different sources. Like that was the first session where we covered the SIEM. Like SIEM was more like, okay, collecting logs, analyzing logs. But here is really how you use each log, how you use that event or log event to against a requirement of a standard, like I think HIPAA had maybe 163 requirements. There are like hundreds of requirements you need to match, like use that as the evidence against those standards. Like, but we have a way already a way, and you need to collect this from every source, like because you don't know where this either electronic protected health information or PCI DSS data goes and transit and sitting, like, so you need to yeah, track it everywhere. Like, so that's why the sources of this logs and events will be from everywhere. And again, the XDR architecture. And once we know about the signal, it's not now the compliance, like we have seen the least privilege access or implement access controls. Like, I mean, this architecture will enable that. Like when you getting data, it just makes it better. Like, for example, you see an endpoint, it's coming from a location that it's not supposed to come in, like trying to access, for example, ePHI data, like a request comes in, but now XDR knows that, right? Maybe you implemented geofencing as part of, for example, SASE over here, like, and it's going to restrict the access. Like, so it's going, that's the access control requirement that we were looking at. This is how it will automatically make sure that access control is implemented there. And the three type of things, we will focus more on the second and third. This one we looked at in the context of the endpoints, security configuration assessment, but that's also like, this is about like continuously scanning and auditing like all your assets for compliance against the CIS requirements. And then streamlining compliance and reporting, which will be used for the compliance evidence and so on. Okay, with this one, we can get into with the CIS control. So there will be a lot of these different standards. Like we cannot cover all, like the CMMC, CMCC, and others. Like there are many standards, but all drive from the CIS controls. Like we looked at these in the first session. Like it's about inventory of your enterprise assets, software assets, data protection, account management, access control, and same network monitoring and vulnerability, everything. Like, and we have seen like PCI DSS had the 12 requirements. It may not cover all 18, like, and but another standard may have another maybe 14 requirements that will be may not be all from here, but this is, you can see, is a master. Like, I mean, so every standard is derived from CIS controls. Like, as long as we are compliant with these, you will have compliance with pretty much all the industry specific standards out there. So this CIS is agnostic. This is not industry specific. Of course, then each industry has certain requirements. That's why we get these different standards for each industry and so on. And now we can get into, and yeah, like I think best is we get into the console now and have a look at some of first we can come over here. So this is the same. We can go to the overview over here. So this is, we are on XDR, like you have seen these dashboards. And today our focus is going to be these security operations, like all these different compliance and so on, like PCI DSS, HIPAA, and others. If there's time, we can cover more over here. But first we can start with the configuration assessment. That was the first item. Remember in this configuration assessment. So this is about those regular scans. So let me go over here. I think we looked at it. I can select an agent. Each agent will have their own. I can select my Mac over here. So you can see, I mean, this happens constantly. I think every 24 hours, the XDR 360 does a scan and come up with how many CIS benchmarks, right? I'm meeting for each device. Like this is a Mac OS, Windows will have their own. I'm meeting and failing. Like this was done yesterday. I think maybe there will be another scan done today. Like so, you will see. And when we look at these events, they will refer to all these different standards. Like we can, if we can open any requirements and so on. Like you can see what compliance it is touching upon. You can see NIST, PCI DSS requirement 6.2 and so on. Like you can see like everything is deriving from these CIS controls. Let's go back and we can start anywhere. Let's start at the PCI DSS. So this is going to be a format for each standard. So you are going to have a dashboard for PCI DSS. It's just giving you like top 5 rule groups that are being applied and top 5 PCI DSS requirements. Like this looks like this 11.5 is the almost 93%. We'll look what this requirement is. Like this is like based on this environment, this is one of our test workspaces. Based on the endpoints in this workspace, what are the different, for example, PCI DSS requirements I'm hitting over here. Like, and then I can go to the controls. So these are the requirements. Like, and before I, not sure if this was. Yeah, this was a NIST. Yeah, maybe I can cover that. Like the NIST standard. I mean, there's this PDF I downloaded, but all the things that you're seeing in the dashboards are derived from these standards because each standard has a published document, and we just pull that information from there, and it's constantly being updated. Right. So we haven't come up these numbers like these 11.5 and so on. Right. This is the standard. Like, but every single requirement is being tracked. I know every log event comes, we know which standard it applies to. You have seen it lists all the standards, and that single event can be used to as evidence for multiple compliance standards because we know what standards are looking for, what the requirements and the log events get categorized. Okay, this is matching these and so on. And this 11.5 was, I think we saw a lot of hits over here. You can see 2,534. Some others there are no hits. Some other are a little bit less. What is this about? Yeah, so so it looks like there are a lot of these. This is about deploying a change detection mechanism, like, and we have seen that in the endpoint file integrity monitoring is a one way, like to monitor change detection, right? So this is what it is doing. Like there are some checksums being changed and so on the machine, and this is being tracked. And you can see like all the details as we have seen previously. So this is PCI DSS requirements 11.5 over here. But at the same time, it lists the other NIST standard as well. SI is a system information. In the PDF, if we go there, we can find that requirement as well. And we can also search these requirements. Like if you are talking with the client and they want to know, for example, if the cardholder data, like what requirements are applied, are there any hits on that requirements? Is somebody trying to access that data? We can just they use the term card holder data. Like I can see if there's a requirement around card holder data. Like it's just, I mean, I filtered it because I searched it, and we can look at this. So this is the thing I was saying earlier, this card holder, this is the whole requirement, like review the following at least daily, all security events, log of all system component that stores, process, or transmit CHD and or SAD. SAD is secure authentication data. Like that is the second part I was saying. That's about your pins and CVC of your credit card. But the first one is your name, your credit card number, and so on. So they can store this information, right? So, and you can see like I think it's some of maybe on my endpoint, some of the things that are happening that are matching these requirements and being tracked over here. So you can see like not only now the compliance, but you can also search these things. Like if you're trying to find a particular thing or a requirement, how many hits on a particular requirements, these are all nicely organized information for you. Like again, this is being collected from all the systems, your endpoints. If you activate like intrusion detection on your cyber gateway, those events come over here, like all that information. And I can also filter only requirements with alerts, right? I can filter those out. I don't need to worry about others because none of those are seen in my environment, right? And when I was over here, I can also generate a quick report. Like I can just generate a PDF report of all that if I want to use that as evidence. And you will see we generate these reports weekly, and you get these reports every Monday. But you can anytime you can generate a report as well. You may need a different time frame. You can select like we generally do one week, but you may need want to generate 1 month or 3 months. You can pick the time and generate that report for your compliance. Yes, similarly for other standards, you can see we can maybe look at another one like HIPAA. Yeah, I think I can. I don't need to because my agent is pinned over here. I don't because those were all compliance about the agent. I pinned it, but I just unpinned it. So this is for my whole workspace. You can see. So you can see these are the 164. These are all the HIPAA requirements and pretty much all the kind of visually showing you what are the different requirements. And even on time, you can see which are the times when there are more activity and all that. Like nicely, and what are the different agents, like how many events from different agents that apply to the HIPAA standard. And similarly, controls over here, a very similar way you can look at these. For example, the most hits, as you can see, implement policies and procedures to protect electronic protected health information, yeah, from improper alteration or destruction. Like again, some of the things I think this is one of our Linux machine in Azure, some files getting added, deleted, all that is being tracked over here if someone is trying to make changes there. Okay, I think with this one, I wanted to cover another part which is related, but you get the idea about these different compliance, like how this works. And the reporting as well, we can look at when we were let me just see where. Okay, I think best is I launch it from here. I think I had a link to the reporting. So let's open that from here. So these are the weekly reports you get, as by saying you get NIST, HIPAA, PCI DSS, GDPR, and some others like file integrity monitoring, like all the change controls that will be used for many different standards, like and so on, malware detection, threat hunting, and MITRE attack framework. Like, and you can learn more about all these, but same thing as I was showing you in the dashboards and so on. But the part I want to cover was this part, like the admin part, like which is one of the thing, like we are more talking about XDR, but there's a GRC component. So this is outside of XDR, but very much related with today's discussions. Like we more on the XDR today over here, which is about collecting all the logs and events for compliance. But now how you use that data to actually get compliant, like your clients, you help your maybe your MSP and your clients get compliant, right? Because you need to do an audit and other things. XDR 360 is not providing a mechanism to do an audit, for example. Like, and what is the framework for that? The framework for that is what we call GRC. Right? So this is another it's not under XDR, it's under GRC. So you can go and check that out, for example, and let's go into the overview. And the same thing you will see, I can go to the compliance center. I initiated some compliance like the HIPAA and CMMC and so on. Let's go to HIPAA because we were just looking at HIPAA compliance. So I can go to the flash mode, but now I'm kind of getting my MSP getting compliant or my helping my client get the compliance, HIPAA compliance, right? So this system, again, it has all the requirement it has imported over here, and you can quickly go through those. Like I can go through these requirements are all there over here. And I can do it in two ways. Like let's do I think I was at flash mode, but let me check. Yeah, so this is the first requirement. Identify where ePHI is generated within the organization and so on. I say I'm compliant, right? I go to next, partially compliant or maybe not compliant at this time, right? And next and so on. You can see there are 152 requirements. I can quickly get an idea. It's going to then summarize all the results, how much work I need to do to get compliant, because this is very quickly in like 10 minutes, I will be able to find that information. But the idea here is more than that. So let's go again, HIPAA compliance, all the other things that I was talking about the providing evidence and all that. Right? So this is table mode. So you have seen, like in the XDR 360, I have data for each requirement. Like I have the evidence. So right now, at least for the Axiom platform, we are not automatically taking that data and bringing to the GRC and populating here. This is on our roadmap. When we can do that, then compliance becomes very, very easy. Like all the requirements are being tracked in XDR 360, and we populate all the evidence here, and you can be compliant ready not in 3 months, in 3 days, right? Because all the manual work is gone, like taking screenshots and bringing those over here. But today you have to do a little bit manual work. So this is I said I'm compliant over here, but I haven't provided any evidence, but I can upload evidence. I have my HIPAA compliance report that I can upload over here. Like that can be used as evidence, right? Because I'm tracking each requirement there. Or maybe this is the requirement, whatever this requirement is, I go in XDR 360, I just kind of click on that requirement. I was doing that and just take a screenshot that I'm compliant with that requirement and upload as evidence here, like a screenshot or whatever I need to do. And then I can once I've done that, then I can start an audit over here. And this framework has a lot more. This is hundreds of frameworks. So it's a very comprehensive system. Not only you can PCI DSS, any regional standard, like you may be another country, it has a lot of country specific standards as well. And it has a huge library. Let's go to the library. You can search for anything, basically. You can see some other, for example, criminal justice information systems. So this is the services that a lot of federal, state, local, and tribal law enforcements use. Like we had MSP had that requirement because they were working with municipalities. So we help them, like you can see, like this CGIS standard, like you can get compliant with that over here, this framework. Like it gives you everything, all the requirements and the evidence and so on. So this is the GRC part of the compliance as we were looking over here, this administrative part. And when we looked at in PCI, this requirement 12 is about that. And when we are looking at the CIS controls, this NIST also introduced, like it used to be identify, protect, detect, respond, recover. but in the new framework, recently they introduced this govern function, right? So this is about that GRC, administrative and compliance. So this is now a core component of any compliance, this activity. Yeah, again, coming back to that, this compliance not only helps create resiliency, because now you will be implementing controls to protect from cyber attacks, but more importantly, it creates trust, like help your clients to have more credibility with their customers, and you becoming the trusted advisors to your clients.